Welcome to Business Unveiled, the podcast designed to help you thrive in the creative community. Here's your host, events and productivity consultant, Gmal Pratts.
Hi, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Business Unveiled. Expert tips and secrets from top creative industry professionals, where we take you behind the scenes of our past experiences in the creative industry and share with you what we have learned from them and how they have made us stronger. This podcast will help you grow a productive and profitable business to launch you into success within the creative industry. Today's podcast is being brought to you by the GSD Retreat. It's for badass business owners who want to get shit done beachside in Cabo, Mexico on December 2nd through 6th. This is an annual business strategy and content planning retreat to come and join me and several other amazing speakers in a spectacular oceanfront bedroom villa for an intimate business retreat where you will experience not only fun and friendship, but we want to get shit done for 2019. Do you actually block time on your calendar to work on your business, to plan for consistent content and for consistent marketing each month? But you know, something always comes up. I want to invite you to come to spend 3 full days with me collaborating with like-minded business individuals looking to get this done, to knock it out. I will show you exactly how to put together an annual plan with content creation, images, weekly schedule, and so much more. You will leave Cabo with a solid plan to crush 2019. If you're interested, I want to invite you to visit bit.ly/GSD retreat. Come spend 3 days with me in Cabo, where you will leave with an amazing, amazing plan where you can fast track your personal and professional goals, leaving you with the return on investment of being absolutely priceless. Visit bit.ly/GSD retreat. Hi, y'all. It's Angela here. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Business Unveiled. I am so excited to interview one of my very good friends who has an amazing company that our clients absolutely not only adore what he does and what he has brought to Nashville, but he's just a good, fun person. So I'm excited to interview Gemaal Pratts, who is the owner of Aperitif Events and Cocktails. Hi, Gemaal.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking time today and being on the podcast. And we have my dogs in the house. Lily and Pepe. This is all real time. So they're here at the office hanging out. But I'm excited to talk to you about your journey and how the heck you even got to Nashville, came to Nashville. Like, for any of our audience listening, like, let's just jump in with your background. Like, how have you gotten to be like the mixologist? Like, where did it all start?
So my background, originally, I'm from Chicago, and I played football, did all that fun stuff in high school, and I applied to different schools. Nothing was in state. I was like, I need to get out of Chicago. I need to travel, spread my wings, get away from family. I feel like that's what a lot of people do nowadays. So
True entrepreneurship, baby.
Yes. So I went to school. Undergrad, I wound up going to TSU, and I started with business, and then I was like, man, what separates me after I graduate from everyone else? Because the biggest school was business. So then I was like, okay, I know I love building things and architecture, and that's mostly math. And I was like, I don't want to do this every day. So then I was like, I got it. I have it. Dental hygiene is what I'll do. So
Are
I
you
applied for
serious?
the program. Yes.
I know.
I applied for the program. I did all the testing, all the interviews you have to do to get into the program with all the different deans of the school and everything. And first day of practice, have my scrubs on, table back ready, and I open this guy's mouth and he has green fungus in his mouth.
Oh,
And when you're
no.
doing things, if people will find out about me at least, with dental hygiene, that's one of those you have to have a stone face and you cannot let emotion show. And
Ooh.
at the time, I was like, I had an epiphany. I was like, I don't know if I can do this for the rest of my life. So day one in
I would
practice,
vomit.
I literally, so day one in practice, I told the client, I was like, hey, I'll be right back. I forgot tools in the other room. And I talked to my advisor and I left and I never went back, and I changed my major that day to speech pathology and audiology. And I knew a lot about that
What?
because one of my brothers has autism. So I always went to his meetings and I
Wow.
saw, yeah, he was diagnosed when he was 2. So I saw his background and his change and development from working with his SLP. And I was like, I can do this. So that's what I stuck to. And it was fun. Um, Graduated with that in undergrad and grad school, because with speech path with grad school, at least really in undergrad, it's just a piece of paper. You have to go to grad school. So Western
Totally.
Kentucky, Vandy Online, went for grad school, did that. But during school, to get into the cocktail part, after freshman year, midway into freshman year, but towards the end too, I started getting into cocktails, and I moved to Miami for 6 months. And my friend was opening a bar there, and I would just frequent there, hang out, and the stars aligned where someone didn't show up for their shift. He was like, Gemaal, I need you to jump behind this bar. And at the time, I knew nothing about alcohol. I was like, if you ask me, literally, I joke, I was like, if you ask me what on the rocks meant, I was going outside to try to find rocks. Like, I knew
That's
nothing
amazing.
about alcohol, but I knew doing it day after day that I love the people and I love the crowd. It's a different thing, people that when you go to bars or restaurants to sit at a bar and sit at a table. It's a completely different crowd. So I loved it. And then I came back to Nashville while I was still in undergrad and going to grad school. And I basically worked at every single cocktail oriented bar in Nashville, making all their cocktail menus, and just really immersing myself into mixology and kind of honing my craft on cocktails. I was like, hey, if I'm going to do anything, even if I don't see it as a career, I want to be the best that I can at it. So I was at an actual bar, and one of my friends who's followed me from different bars and had my cocktails wound up opening an event space in Nashville.
Uh-huh.
And she said, hey, basically, you're making all these companies money by putting your cocktails and their drinks on their menu. You should go into business for yourself. So
Amen.
I was like, what is she talking about? And that never crossed my mind, never, because anything with business, I now say there's two kind of people. There are people that like to know, hey, they're very comfortable working 9 to 5, knowing, hey, I'm going to make X amount of money and I can budget for that. And then there's like the entrepreneurs, it's high risk, high reward, where it's like, hey, my money might not be as controlled as other people, but when I make it, it can, because it makes you different, like budget money different. And I feel like it's a different work ethic, knowing when you wake up, you're the reason that you're making money.
A
You don't
hundred
have like a
percent.
set 9 to 5 to go to know that, hey, I'm going to make this no matter what. It's all depending on you. So if you wake up and you're like, hey, I don't really want to do anything today, that's fine, but your bank account's going to reflect that.
Yeah, you ain't
So
gonna make any money.
exactly. So I was like, what are you talking about? I never thought of doing anything about running a business, being an entrepreneur, anything like that. And she was like, trust me, no one's doing this yet in Nashville. If you can
Mm-mm.
take your cocktails, and she really made me think, she's like, you can monetize anything.
You can.
So if you can take your cocktails and bring those to the event world, she was like, right now, it's very stagnant, but it's
Mm-hmm.
going to grow because people are coming here from all over different cities where they're accustomed to this. So Nashville hasn't had this yet. This is still a small city that wants to get big. When you go to big cities like the LAs and the Chicagos, New Yorks, they have cocktail companies that's like this. Because traditionally, anything when it comes to bar and alcohol beverage, it was done by a catering company. But
Which is so different
yeah,
now. They don't
it's
want to
very
touch
different. They
it.
don't want to touch it because now it's just definitely a knowledge thing. Now it's people are coming here, and even though they're very immersed in the Nashville lifestyle, they do want things in at least the par of what they're used to at home. So she was like, "Hey, you should go into business, do this." I never knew anything about it. She was like, "I'm going to put you in contact with the right people. I'm going to help you website, social media, do what you need to do." And she helped me out with all those things, like this is what you need to do, just branding wise, kind of doing that. And my first event, and I'm very that kind of person, I got thrown to the wolves. And that year it was Nashville Fashion Week. It was my first event.
Oh,
Yeah.
super crazy
And
busy.
yeah, and it was like a 350, 400 person event. Mind you, I've done events before, but never on my own. So it's a different thing of like you have clients and people that are booking you, they expect a certain level of service. So,
Totally.
and there's no one to look back on when you're working at a bar or like a restaurant or a bar or something. There's always like a manager or somebody else. When it comes to the event world, that's you. You are the start and the finish. So I was like, wow. And they're like, can you do it? And I'm like, hey, I need to start somehow. So I'm like, sure. So we were um, 400 people, fashion show, everything, cocktails, shaking things. Like it was crazy, but definitely like a learning experience of my first one. Because at first I was like, man, I don't know. Like, what's the average size of an event in Nashville compared to like weddings or a corporate event? Like, what do I do? How do I set up the bars? Like,
Yeah.
glassware, all those things. So all those things was a learning process. Um, but I'm definitely glad I did it. So yeah, I got thrown to the wolves, and I made it. I sweat a little bit. I was like, man, this
A
is
workout.
crazy. Yes, and it was like hot outside. I'm like, this is a lot. This is a lot, definitely. But um, starting out with that, like doing basically a 400 person event for my day one, it's better. I
Wow.
feel like doing that than starting off with like a small wedding or a small corporate event. You know,
I
so
totally agree. I mean, I feel like if as being entrepreneurs, like if you I mean, think about it. If you really sit around and think about what you have to do, what the liabilities are, what you're going to have to do to make all this work, no one would ever take the risk and jump.
never.
And so it's to me, it's like whenever we start a new intern, we get them every 8 to 10 weeks, depending on how the semesters fall. And my favorite events for new interns is when we have really big productions. And I'm like, this is perfect because they're going to get thrown in to see exactly how our life is like on a Saturday.
Exactly.
But when we have, I would say, like a hotel wedding or easier weddings or everything's in the same place and there's not as much detail or production or level of detail, I tried to like slow walk it. And I'm like, I just want to make sure you understand, like, we're going to actually sit down and rotate and eat dinner and have a break. And like, this never happens. So I don't want you to like walk away with the perception, like, oh my God, this is so easy. Like, what are people talking about? Because every event is different, like, as you know. So really, I mean, my next question for you is like, how did you really get into the industry, in the events industry, and how did you get thrown into entrepreneurship? But I feel like you had a really good friend and a really good cheerleader that saw your talent, and with a little bit of nudging and help and guidance, isn't it amazing how far like a
Yes.
little bit of guidance can go? That's why I love coaching people, because I know that it's going to change their life, just not like plan an event and then it's like wham bam, thank you ma'am, done.
Right.
And so it's like making those differences. And I bet now she's like, look at me now, you know?
Exactly. I started you on this. Yeah. And
It's
it's
so
so different
great.
now. And now I couldn't think of going back ever and working for somebody else.
Right? It's
So
just, we're
it's
unemployable.
yeah, yeah. Well, certain people, like I feel like in high school or like middle school and college, even college, like you take tests like, hey, what will you be good at? Like all those kind of things. And not everybody is meant to work for somebody else.
That's
Like,
right.
so now, and it's harder if you're good at your craft, trying to stay in the industry you're in, whatever it is. And usually the people that are your superiors that you work for know less about the product and the knowledge than you do. So I have a problem with that. I can't go back to working in a bar or something and my bar manager knows less about what's going on than I do. That's going to be bad for business. I'm like, how do you listen to someone and they don't have the knowledge you have, but they're bossing you around?
Yeah. So okay, so you got thrown in like with Fashion Week and
Hmm.
then and then I know that you do a ton of luxury weddings. So how did you adjust to the difference of like you said, it's a different experience when you go into a restaurant and you're working behind the bar, the people that sit at the bar versus the people that are at a table. Like, how did you adjust, or did you even see a difference, or do you approach it differently when you're working or you're preparing your team for like a Nashville Fashion Week versus a wedding? Like, is there a difference?
It's well, from working in like a cocktail oriented bar and doing events, whether it is corporate or wedding period, is different because when you're working at a bar, you're really just thinking of one side of the bar. When you're working an event where it's a wedding, corporate event, anything, you have to think of both sides. So you have to think from your side, functionality, what makes sense, but then you also have to think about more of, the guest experience and time and what the bar looks like and aesthetic and where is it placed and the flow of the event and all that. When it comes to a stationary bar, because usually with events, you're building a bar out of nothing. So
Right. Totally
you have
custom.
to yeah, so it's definitely more, and that's also, I think, just working for yourself, it kind of forces you to think outside the box and think of things you wouldn't normally think, thought about.
Yeah.
um because now definitely, yeah, like at a bar, you're just thinking, hey, I'm behind the bar. What can I get you? I'm making cocktails. You're not really concerned as much from their side of the view because you have a bar owner, a restaurant owner, who that's their job, making sure the aesthetic is okay, making sure the bar layout makes sense where people don't have to wait in lines. But now that's on you, both sides. So I think that is probably the biggest takeaway. And also, when it comes to weddings, it's a different level of care and emotion and thought that you have to put into it because I say that when it comes to a wedding, like this is their day, right?
The
And
day.
this is the day.
The
So
day.
you have brides that have been thinking about their wedding and what they've wanted since they had their first crush, right? So this is a very, very important thing when transitioning into corporate events. It's still very important. You still want to give the same detail and time, but they might do this, quarterly. They might do an event quarterly. So it's not as much. I shouldn't say like as much of a big deal, but it's not like, how do I even word
The
that?
one and only.
Yeah, the
Like,
one and only. Because
totally.
the bride is like, I want flowers here. I want this cocktail to look like this bar here, all the aesthetics under the world to make her vision perfect. Usually with corporate events, it's like, hey, we care, just make sure, it doesn't suck, basically.
Right.
Like make sure like, hey, here's our
Stay
budget.
within budget.
Here's our budget. Yeah, the budget's the main. Stay within budget. That's anything though. The dollar rules everything. Stay in budget. Just make sure that it doesn't suck. The bride is like, I want this centerpiece here with the light cascading through that window, hitting it right here, and it's
Do you
just
have
so
people
much
like that?
more in
Like, do you
detail.
have people that are like that ask you like how are you going to design this,
Oh,
and or is it
well,
like the planners and designers asking?
design wise, no, but I definitely hear stories from what people say on my end. It's people have gotten to the point where they kind of just trust what I'm going to do. So after they have their tasting, even with like the garnishes and everything, and they trust that it's going to look aesthetically pleasing. So, and
So,
generally, because that's not their world. So
right.
it's hard for them to even talk about that. It's easier for them to talk about florals with the planner
Yeah.
is to talk about garnishes and cocktails and stuff with, the bartender. So,
So let's take our listeners like through an experience. So, as if, like, if I were to close my eyes and listen to you talk, and like, because like my next question is like, I want to know what's special and unique about what you do, which I know all these answers. But for the people listening, tell them from beginning to end, like the experience, I mean, there's so many cool things that you do now, but just starting from the beginning, like how you do your tastings to the flavor profile to menu matching, like take us through that.
so let's say I get a inquiry um, through website or Instagram. First thing is one, just making sure I'm available for the date. But from there, I kind of get a feel for what they need and what they want. So it's very different. Like you already said, every event is different, every client is different. And it's the same thing that trickles to alcohol. So, what one person might think is the most important part of a bar, another person might not care about at all. So, like, hey, I've done events for people that are Psalms or wine is very, very important.
Okay,
And
tell them what a psalm is, just in case they don't know.
so, a sommelier is basically a wine professional. Their job is to taste, know the region, different varietals, um, basically tasting notes. Basically, they're a walking like dictionary and thesaurus through the wine world to help you guide you when it comes to champagne or even still wine, really what you're looking for. And I have 5 of those wine professionals on my team and the only level 3 sommelier for 250 miles around.
Which is a
So,
big deal, y'all. Like a
yes,
big deal, meaning they know their shit. Like
exactly.
they taste and spit wine like all day long.
All day. And it's like it's crazy expensive, but all day they drink wine and that's what they do. Um, so if
So
you
you
have a
can do wine, but I love you for
for the
the whole
cocktails, yeah, yeah, well,
cocktail
that's
thing.
getting into it. So depending on the client, like I was saying, like some like, hey, wine's important, beer is, and some like beer's everything. You want 20 different beers from around the world, and wine we can care less about. But the main thing that people contact us about is the cocktails and what we do and garnish and the aesthetic. And so I'll get an inquiry and usually they want cocktails. And I say, okay, how many, are you doing like a his and hers, like a bride and groom cocktail? Or do you want literally like a cocktail menu, like if you went to a restaurant or any bar? And then from there, I kind of dive into what their flavor profile is because I'm kind of, when I'm doing a tasting, bringing a whole bar to you. So in order to hone in where I don't bring in everything on the planet, like you're like, hey, I don't like bourbon. Well, that saves time for me because now I'm not going to bring in bourbon and try to push the bourbon cocktail on you if you know that that's not something you would ever drink. So you're like, hey, I like tequila, I like spicy, I like savory. From what you tell me, I bring in the products and I curate cocktails based off of your flavor profile. So I never make the same drink twice. And that's also gets into what we do different, why we don't do packages. We do custom quotes for every single thing that we do. Um, so from there, I'll come to you, whether it's your business, your personal house, wherever it is, and I'll bring
Set
a
up a
bar
conference
and I'll
room.
set up, yeah, conference room. We've done that and do a custom tasting for you. And none of these drinks, majority of the time, just based off of what you're telling me, I'm freestyling these drinks right then and there for you. So I don't have like, there's another company that does this in California. They're amazing, but they have a set drink list of 6 drinks, basically one drink made of each spirit that you can choose. So that's good consistency wise because you know every single event what you're going to get, but that doesn't really make it curated for you. So you might pick that tequila cocktail, but that's not really your jam. Whereas me, I'm like, I'm trying to get as close to what you want and what you would drink if you can make an actual cocktail as possible. So I'll come to you, do a tasting. We will sit down and literally, however long it takes, blind test cocktails. So I'll line it up in front of you. Start out. I normally do like 3 at a time. I'll line them in front of you and have you taste each cocktail. And at the end, let's say it's bride and groom. I literally have this to a science. Um, you all separate and kind of line up what's your favorite to least favorite, and then from there, usually it's if they both have the aha moment where it's like we pick the exact same thing and we love it, and the mom and dad's in the room and they pick the exact same thing too. Usually that's the go-to. That's so rare, and that's kind of a sample size of what the whole entire event would be like and what they would want. Because my job is to definitely give you in a glass as a client, but to appease the masses that's coming to your event, whether that's a wedding or a corporate event,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to spend time and money making these cocktails, and the only people that are going to consume them are the 4 people in the room.
Which would
Bad
suck.
for you. Yeah. That's bad for you. That's bad for me. And I even joke with people. I'm like, hey, when you do events, every cocktail you love and the guests love, that's basically me giving them out a business card every
Yeah.
single time when people drink the cocktails. Like, oh, because it's something different. You might not be expecting this. A corporate event, they might be used to just beer and wine. They're not used, and maybe an open bar if they want to lush on that, but they're not used to cocktails that, hey, someone on your team picked out for you all, you know?
Yep.
Um,
So you've heard me talk about true colors, right?
mhm.
Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but fun little fact. So, whenever I love how you just totally, like you said, like blindly, you put things in front of people, and based on how they react to that, can almost give you an inkling into like what color they are in true colors and how
Mhm.
to approach them as a client. So, it's funny. I don't know if you noticed this. We were doing a tasting recently with a bride and groom, and the which I know this about because I we colorize all of our clients, before we start working together and tell them about it. But whenever you set things down, like the groom was like, "So what exactly is in this?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm not going to disclose that right now." I mean, you were funny about it, but you're like, "Just taste it, and like go along with it." But it's like that is green in true colors because they're instantly asking like what is in this like before I put it in my mouth, and you're just like
Right.
just trust the process, man, it's cool. And but you can how people react base you can just tell like right off. And then you can when people are like, hell yeah, like look at all these glasses, look at all these different drinks, and it's only
Mhm.
11:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's really orange. And then after they take a few sips, whoever speaks up first and they're like, well, what do you think? Like, which one do you like best? It's like those are the blue people. They need affirmation. They need to know that. And then the gold people are like asking the questions like before they even put it in their mouth
Exactly.
about like, so I mean, how many, like, we're going to have 250 people. So I don't know if you use that personality analogy at all. Like, when you put alcohol in front of people and based on their just instant human reaction, like, you can almost kind of tell what color they are. I don't know.
Right.
Have you ever done that?
I've not, but I need to. And that's even a method to my madness. So, and
Yeah,
you've
tell
been there
us.
for quite a few tastings. So for the listeners, when I do a tasting, I put the different cocktails in front of them. I don't even want you looking at what I'm putting in it, because what happens
Okay.
is everything is basically like it's all psychology. So just like food, if you see someone cooking, you see the chef cooking, and you think you don't like something, or you don't like something, your
Hmm.
mind, you already are shooting that down before you try it. Compared to you don't see and you don't know what's in it, you're just not allergic to it. But you don't see, you don't know what's in it, and you try it, because so many times people are like, I don't like this, I don't like this. And you
Ah.
give them something like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, and everything in there you said you didn't like. So
I love it.
no. And the same thing when I have like a bride and groom, I tell them, don't give each other verbal or nonverbal cues
Uh-huh.
when you're trying your cocktails. Wait till the end, because what happens is when you're in love and you care, or you're a friend, or there's passion, whether you think about it or not, you can be swayed by what they like, and you're going to
Yep.
try to appease them. So you might not have liked this cocktail as much, but you love this one, but you know that she really liked this cocktail. Then you start bending. You're like, oh, well, I mean, I can see that. I'll do that, But then it gets away from what you really, really want.
Yeah.
So everything, yeah, when I do the tastings, there's a method to all those, and doing those so many times and bringing in all that product is like, I need to get this as exact as possible, to give them like time wise and to give them really what they're searching for, because so many times, and that's also why when I do tastings, I like them kind of very intimate, because what
Hmm.
happens is you do a tasting and you invite all of your groomsmen and bridesmaids. By the end of the
Mm.
tasting, you lose what you actually want because you're trying to appease what every single other person wants and their thoughts when it comes to everything. At the end of the day, they're not paying for this.
That's right.
So I need the people who are really going to be there, mom, dad, bridegroom, planner, in the room, and we sit down as a huddle. Because I've gone to a tasting before where it's like, oh, it'll just be a couple of us, and then there's 18 people in the room who all have their opinions about what they should do. I'm like, ugh.
Which we actually did one kind of like that the other day, because with some of these corporate groups we work with, I mean, no, in fact, Jamal and I did Pickler and Ben, and it's funny because they're doing another show taping on Wednesday for brides for the wedding season, for busy season. But we went on, and this was actually for a baby shower, and Jamal came up with 3 different custom cocktails, because when the producer asked me, she's like, for, luxury baby showers and couple showers, like, what is the one thing that people want to experience? Like, is it the furniture? Like, is it like this balloon thing? And I'm like, that's just decoration. Like, it makes the pictures pretty, but what people really experience are the cocktails and mixology. And so that's one of the splurges that people, because when you're doing things in a private home, it's not like you have to have a bartender, but I always suggest it, because you want your guests to, you don't want them to have to make their own cocktails. I mean, they can, but it's just nice when you're served. And then when you're served something that's like custom to the menu, or it's just a completely different level of experience. And so when the producer's like, well, okay, so you want to talk about those cocktails? I'm like, no. Like, the guy
Right.
that does them for my events, like, he can come on, and she's like, but that's going to cut into your segment and your time. I'm like, I don't care. It's not about me. It's about what clients want. And I mean, I'm going to bring in the expert. Like, I'm not even going to try to pretend to talk about this shit. Like, you bring in the people who do it. And it actually, I think it ended up way better than she thought, because they're not used to having people share a segment. But it was great, because like, you came up with like mimosas and daiquiris. It was really
That was
cute.
like the scariest moment of my life, to be honest with you. And you just made it like you do this every day, and I'm there. And I don't get nervous by things at all. Like, I'll talk to anyone, I have no problem. I've had public speaking classes where I'm in front of an auditorium of 400 people talking
Wow.
about something I really don't know about. And then going in front, like, I'm like, no, this is simple. And the whole entire time behind the scenes, people are like, are you nervous? Is everything's good? I'm like, why would I be nervous? And as soon as you turn that corner and the lights hit you, I'm like, man, I'm sweating. Like, people are doing like makeup touches. They're like, are you good? I'm like, you're supposed to look over here. I'm like, wait, what am I supposed to say? I already forgot. And then, all right, we're going. And I'm like, oh my God.
They're like,
Oh my God.
action.
Oh my God. It felt like you're in school, and the one time you don't know the answer, that's when the teachers are like going to pick on you. They're like, all right, who? Oh my God. And you just make it look so easy. I'm sweating bullets back
It's
there.
so good. Those lights are effing hot. Like, let me tell you. But it's just like, you know your craft, and you know what people want. And like you said, it's that level of experience that is just different. And you were doing it first. And I mean, now there's lots of mixology companies, but again, it's like, what sets you apart is
Uh,
all of these experiences, and like your background of, you lived the Miami life, you did dental hygiene, you did speech pathology, like all of these things bring something to the table that some of these people, like, they don't have a background in that. So do you feel like you attribute some of your communication and how you are an entrepreneur today? Do you feel like all of that past experience, like, helped you get to where you are today and make you into who you are today?
yeah, I think like a big takeaway is that like I love good people. I shouldn't say I love good people. So
Some
I'm one
people
of those.
suck.
Yeah, exactly. Some people. That's why I had to preference like with good people. I don't love everybody, but I'm one of those like, hey, I'll do anything I can. Like that's what my clients like, very personal because as you know, like this is when it comes to food or it comes to weddings or anything you're really dealing one on one with people, like especially weddings, like that's their day. They're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. Like you wind up whether you like it or not, like on their team and in their circle. And I have so many clients, and I save everyone in my phone from date, number, like everything. So many clients now that are like friends. Like I don't even remember that I actually did your wedding, and that's how this all started. Like people literally like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Da, da, da. And I'm like, "Oh, you're my bride from 3 years ago." Like, "Oh, okay." Like,
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, like it kind of puts you in the space where, and the real thing that I love is since I never thought that I would be in this space, kind of seeing the transition to like this is a world you don't know about until you know about it.
Amen.
So, and it's I feel like a very um how do I say this? Like even like especially with wedding planners, like people they need to really understand what you do to understand what you do, because a lot of people think like, hey, weddings and stuff, I can throw this all in by myself. By the end of it they have a head full
Exactly.
of gray hairs and they're hating their life. They're like, why didn't I pay someone for this? I'm like, well, hello, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, so I want to make sure that you tell everyone who's listening about like the new cool trendy branding stuff that you can do with like egg whites and like just tell us like what are, I mean, aside from like custom glasses and garnishes and all of those things, like what are like I feel like every year something new comes out where it's like you got to elevate and elevate and like keep going. And I'm like, the
Right.
next thing I know, we're going to be like asking the skirmal horn to let us have like people spitting fire and shit.
I've done that. That was Miami. um I
Yeah.
think, well, overall I think I my goal is in anything that you do that you want to be the best at, you have to keep pushing the mold. So I never want to be stagnant in the thoughts like, hey, we're good. I know that we're the best cocktail team out there with with staff and knowledge and execution, but
Yeah.
people want different things and you always have to push all. It's kind of a race to always be the first to do something and to do it well. So what we do now, which people love, and I've had a bunch of brides that have wanted this and booked just because of this, is that anything that you can take a photo of, I can put it on a cocktail. It doesn't matter if it's logos, the bride and groom silhouette in a picture fading from the background, images of a city, literally anything you take a photo of with a camera, even your smartphone, I can put it on a cocktail. And what happens is it's a special printer that prints edible grade ink. It's kind of pricey, so watch out for that. But and
It's
it
all about
goes,
investing in a brand.
yes, that's very true. And it goes onto an edible thin layer of rice paper. And what happens is any cocktail that you can add an egg white to is called a flip. Um, you shaking that, dry shaking it with egg white, and that template, however it's cut out to fit the actual glassware, once it's put on that egg white, it kind of disintegrates and leaves the actual stamp of the ink on the cocktail. So it's good for branding, good for really any event you can use it for, because it's something that people haven't seen. If they've seen it, it's just a one time, one cocktail thing. They don't see that to the masses. So when you walk into an event and you see let's say it's a corporate event and your logo are all over the drinks, people are going to lose their natural minds. And it's a different thing to push because it's definitely like knowledge is required to pull this off, especially to the masses. So that's also a differentiator where we come in, is that I have 45 bartenders on staff, and my staff also make cocktail menus all over Nashville and all over different cities. So just a different level of service. But that's for the actual cocktails. And then another thing that we're doing is um, it's kind of like the science aspect of it, like making cocktail spears. So any drink, we could make it in a spear format, a spheres format, where it's literally like a gusher before a cocktail. Um, Different foams, different things, different architectural pieces that you can put as garnishing. So, and those are all rolling out, and we've done those as well. So it's really pushing the mold and seeing what's next and being the first at it to do it and to do it well. Because you can do something, but if you can't execute it, it's different doing a cocktail and doing it one time. And if I'm making a cocktail for you, Angela, then there's different. You're like, hey, I want you to make that cocktail for 100 of my friends.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to wait. I don't want a line, because I tell people too, you can make the best cocktail on the planet, but you have to wait 15 minutes to get it at an event. That's no bueno.
Forget it.
Forget it. So it's definitely a keeping your product the same, keeping your product consistent, and keeping it to the point where the level and the ingredients and things don't slack, and you can do it to the masses. And that's really what we're about. But the cocktail logos that you can see on our Instagram and all the social media, people love it. A lot of people are like, what kind of sorcery is this? When they see anything you could take a photo of on a cocktail, like, how does this even work? And it's very like a awe thing and like shock, you know?
But
Uh,
again, you have to know how to execute it,
right,
and you have to know how to train your people to execute it. And so it's like, it's just not that easy. And if it was, like, everyone would do it. And I feel like it's an investment that you have made into your brand. And it's not just about custom ice anymore, which I am like a huge fan of.
right.
And it's not just about like the straws that are, to the color palette of the wedding. It's more about like the taste, the glass, the
The
overall
full
aesthetic,
experience, yeah.
yeah, of how you can like brand to that event. So it's like
And
you never do the same thing over and over, I feel like. It's
right.
like always unique.
And even to that, I think just business wise, wanting to be the first to execute something properly, but brides and grooms also want it's not even that hard for sale. They want things that because they all go to weddings too. They're always, people are invited to weddings all the time, and they pick before their wedding what they liked and what they didn't like from other places that they've been or other events or weddings they've been to. If they haven't seen something and you can do that, they want to be the first to show their friends that they've had that at their event, at their wedding, you know? So I think that also definitely helps us too, because people coming here, like I said, they want different things. And that's so good for my business, because we're not just your, typical catering staff bar team. That's definitely not us.
Right.
Um, and for many, many reasons, one being, I say the difference too is, I mean, there are companies, to be honest with you, in Nashville that have never, everyone, this is my main thing, Angela, that I hate.
What? Tell
Everyone
me.
says that they're a mixologist nowadays. Every single person
It's
that
like
has a
a
bar
wedding planner.
company. But the thing that gets me is that there's so many people that claim this but can't jump. To me, if you're a mixologist, I can jump behind any bar in Nashville and hold my own, whether I know their drink menu or not. There are people who have never stepped foot behind a bar and just thought, hey, I want to start a bar company, and calling themselves mixologists.
Yep.
Like, that blows my, and the same thing with you. I know, like, in anything you do, there are people that, as a planner, that's why I would hate that have planned their sister's birthday party, and now they consider themselves a planner. So
Right.
it kind of makes it kind of makes the people that actually do this. And the thing that's really frustrating is, as a client, if you don't know, you don't know. You can see someone's social media, Instagram, think they're the greatest thing on the planet, but that's show. It depends day of, is really, because there are people that promise you the world and they can't execute it. So me, my staff, all 45 bartenders, mixologists, whatever you want to call them, they do this every day. Like, this isn't a one-off, hey, I'm trying to support my music career, so I'm going to bartend a couple of events and pour beer and wine. Like, they're actually at these cocktail bars crafting cocktails And I think that is the difference, like the level of knowledge and experience that people have at the events that they book us for is kind of the thing that can be frustrating too, because a lot of times they don't know what they have. Like, hey, you like wine? You don't know that you have people that actually do. These are not just like, hey, we're going to pour wine. Like, these are people, this is what they study. The SOM test is the hardest test rated in the world.
Oh
You
my
have a
God.
level 3 SOM at your table and you don't even know. Like, you have bartenders, and I tell people this in classes, but they really don't grasp it. Like, hey, even these people shaking all your cocktails for your events, like, you go to bars, you're like, hey, I want to any cocktail oriented bar, not dropping names, but hey, these people actually work there and they're coming to do your wedding.
Yeah.
So it's like you have the best of the best in front of you and you don't even know it, you know?
Yeah.
So the thing that's frustrating for me on my end is and there's definitely enough business to go around for everybody, but
Especially in Nashville.
especially in Nashville, but it's still frustrating knowing that there are people that have never bartended before and to say, hey, I want to start a bartending company. And 6 months ago, they've never jumped behind a bar, never been behind a bar. And now they build a mobile bar and everyone thinks they're the greatest thing on the planet because they really don't know.
They
So,
don't. And
so
it's
that's
hard in
yeah.
Nashville, like to get a liquor license. Like, I mean, we do stuff all over the world, and Tennessee is the hardest
hmm
bar board or whatever the hell it's called
Bible
to
Belt
like, yeah,
State.
Bible Belt, like to get your license, and they are super effing strict. And
hmm
so it's like, I don't know, the rules are just so different. But in terms of talking about like frustrations and challenges and like as far as being like an entrepreneur and being able to be profitable and to getting your license, I mean, do you feel like that was kind of hard? I mean, just not anybody can go in and get their license, right?
No, well, to be honest with you, most companies don't.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
You've got
but
it though.
yeah, it's a different thing because, and we've actually talked about this before, other places that require all these things, those other companies get weeded out because they can't do it. And you might not do this to the level that I do it, so you don't deem paying those thousands of dollars to have all your insurance and licensure, like you might not think like that's too big of a hit knowing that you're not doing this to the scale that I'm doing it. So you do this a couple times, you know, a month, you're like, man, I don't know if that's actually worth that. You know what? I might not just take this wedding since this venue requires it. I'll do a wedding somewhere else where the people that actually do this, that's better for us. Cause hey, if you can't get into the space because this is something you do part time, okay, you know, we
Yeah.
do this every day. So that's good for us because not just all the licensure, because a lot of catering companies now they shy away from doing that because it is a whole nother thing.
It's a
You can't,
liability.
you don't have to worry about someone getting too messed up on your ribeye or your glazed chicken. Like that can definitely happen with alcohol. So every single event, and you don't know people's personalities. Every single event dealing with hundreds of people that I really don't know that I've met that day, and now they usually have an open bar to
Mm.
drink and consume whatever they want, and people's different personalities. There's different kind of drunks out there. So, and now, hey, safe travels. You've drank now for 5 6 hours. Have a good night. So that
Hope you get
liability,
home safe.
exactly. A lot of
Peace
people
out.
don't wanna risk. So it's not just like the insurance covering my team, everything that we bring, um, and the actual guests, but getting a liquor license is definitely
It's not easy,
problematic
people.
because what people don't know is you have to have a commercial sized kitchen to be able to pull that off, or you have to be under a company that does have a commercial sized kitchen. So most people don't. So that also separates us giving the
Uh-huh.
luxury of like, hey, what we do and what I tell clients, we are an all-in-one package. So you don't have
Yeah.
to go to, hey, I'm going to order my alcohol from this company and then I'll have my caterer staff the bar and then I'll go to somebody else for glassware. Then who's like, we take care of all that from start to finish. So the rundown for us is working with the planner, usually on like glassware and then aesthetics and bars and stuff like that. But hey, what do you want? The reason why we don't do packages is because with alcohol, that puts you in a box, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like, hey, just like you're like, hey, my price point on wine is this, my price point on beer is this, I want this level of spirits, I want this many cocktails. You can never really do a package because every single client, what they deem is important is so different.
Yep.
So that's why everything we do is a custom quote. We're literally making a quote for your flavor profile and your budget and what makes sense for what you actually want for your wedding. And we bring everything to you. We set it up. What's not used, we take back and give you the money back for it. So day of, you don't have to worry about, well, how much do I order? Who's bringing the product? If it's at the end of the night, who's taking it home? What do I do with all the stuff that's left over? Do I have to keep it? We take care of all that stuff for you.
That's
So,
amazing.
and we don't
It
charge for the cocktail tasting, any of that stuff. So it's definitely the frustrating part, going back to that, is giving people the most bang for their buck,
Yep.
but realizing what we're doing. Because at the end of the night, a lot of the times with vendors, you're never going to see them again. You're going to hear
Yep.
from us again. We're cutting you a check back.
That's right. What's the craziest story that you have encountered at an event?
Oh man.
I mean,
But
I'm sure you
actually
could write
it's
a
a,
book.
yeah. The one is, it was for a celebrity, can't name his name, but it was a celebrity at his estate. And it was definitely a big event. We brought a ton of things, like every single thing you can think of. And it was for a fundraiser. And, people, and he consumed alcohol just like everybody else did. And you saw people, like the things he said, you saw people on his estate making out, doing other things, all in corners, and you're like, wow. But it's a different thing when you're at someone's private residence and what they can get away with compared to you're at a venue. At a
Yep.
venue, you're like, no, that's not going to fly. You can't do that in the bathroom. At someone's house, they're like, hey, I just walk by like you don't see anything. This is their house. They're not going to kick you out of their house.
That's
So,
crazy.
so you're like, oh my God, did I just see what I just saw? But then still having to execute the whole entire night, like every single thing, but people having the time and just the overall good experience and letting it be okay to literally do whatever they want, and alcohol is included. It was like a legit circus
Oh,
of,
wow.
oh my God, did you, like, walking by other bartenders, did you just see what? Yes, that was crazy. So yeah, that one, and it was a full day of just craziness, but
And they
that
know
was
they're
definitely,
protected. That's the
oh,
thing,
100%.
because
Yeah.
we all sign like these NDAs and these
Exactly. Every
confidentiality
single
things.
person that came had to sign one.
Yep.
So they
Yep.
let their hair down. They're like, hey, I'm not going to get in trouble for this. This person already deemed that it was okay, that I can do basically whatever I want as long as
Wow.
I'm donating, do whatever I want. And people did whatever they want. And nobody called them out on it because it was okay. It's his house. He's like, hey. So I'm like, oh my God, stepping over people. Like, it was like
Yeah.
off of a movie.
Yeah.
You're like, this is real life though. Like, this is
Yeah.
not. Oh man,
They
but it
work hard
was,
and play hard, right?
they work hard and play harder is what I feel like they did.
So, the platform that you are amazing at is you really keep up with your Instagram, and you're very consistent, and you're consistent at tagging people. And as a business owner, one of the important things is, a consistency in exposing yourself and exposing your craft and what you do. So, in keeping up with Instagram, like, do you say, what have you learned from that experience? Like, I feel like you really focus on one platform, and that's good for you, which, by the way, we do that too. We like try to take a platform every quarter or every 6 months and focus on it, see how we can grow it. But what's your experience been in building a consistent name on Instagram?
So it's funny because, like I said, being thrown into this, and social media is nowadays the key to everything. But it's an art in itself. Like, you have to be good at it, and you have to know, like, things that originally years ago I would never even thought of, like certain times to reach certain audiences, different demographics of people that you want to touch through whatever you're posting, and what people want to see from your social media, like what people like when they come to your site, what they're looking for, what they want to see in your social media, the next coolest things. I think the biggest thing for me is like, and I don't think I'm the best at it at all. The funniest thing is everyone that I talk to, like, who does your Instagram? Like,
You're
who
like
who
me.
runs this? And I'm like, and I put my head down. I'm like, me, because I'm expecting them to say something. Like, it's amazing. I'm like, y'all,
It's
I
awesome.
most of the time have no idea what I'm doing. My knowledge is cocktails and execution and doing events. But like, I get the social media is important, but I'm not there. I know I'm not there. But everyone is like, no, it's amazing. Like, it's
Yeah.
great. And so many times, and the craziest thing is there's so much more content I haven't put out there, but so many times the day of, and this is why, like, I've heard you say, like, you need an intern, so I'm working for you. I'm thinking about, hey, the bar is here, how we're setting the glassware, alcohol, how can we put all this and hide it behind the bar so people don't see the less than savory things? Setting up the bar, the aesthetic, florals here, how's this going? My last thing is to actually show the world what I'm doing
But
as I'm
I'm going
doing
to
it.
challenge you to do some BTS because I never see, like, do you do behind the scenes? Like,
That's the funny thing. I actually, the last wedding I did, I was thinking about it. I was like, this is the stuff they don't show is what I was gonna like title it. I was like, you
yes.
don't see all the me making your cocktail 2 days prior to so it can steep and really build flavors. You don't see the load in process. You don't see
Why
like
don't you
any
show
of that
them
stuff.
that?
I just never, because my thing is when I get to a venue, one, I try to be one of the first people there because I hate rushing. It's
I
always the
know.
unknown. So I hate rushing. I hate feeling like I'm like behind on anything. So I want to take my time, make sure everything's done right. So I get there and I'm setting up everything, and after everything's done, I'm like, dang, I should have did this. I should have did this.
Yes.
I should have shown this. And I know people do it and people love that. I just never think of it until after everything's done. Because my thing is like day of the bride, like she's not gonna care that I'm like showing behind the scenes stuff. She's like, no, I want this set up by the time, ceremony starts. And that's what's on my brain. That's on the forefront of my mind, like making sure everything's ready to go at this time that we've talked about with the planner to execute. Because execution is my thing. I want everything. I don't want to tell you something and not deliver. That's for planner to bride to anyone. So if you hired me on to be a professional with what I do, I'm going to do that. But I know, and 100%, I was like, people will love to see this. And traction wise,
Yes.
I know. I forget until it's all over with. And when I can breathe, I was like, dang, I'm so much ahead of time that I had time to do this.
You got to make time. Because I feel like your engagement, I mean, even, and this is something one of my team members taught me because I'm very much like you. I like to be behind the scenes. I like to get my shit done. I don't, it's like I'm laser focused. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to get our stuff in, line it up, set it up. But as we're sharing behind the scenes with people, it's actually educating people, which I didn't really understand. I'm like, why do people care so much? And
Hmm.
like now it started to click where it's like, oh my gosh, this has helped me with this and this has helped me with that. And people like get to know you like kind of through social media. It's kind of weird, but it's really cool at the same time because it's a tool that, I mean, we're just doing our thing. And like, I'm going to have to be honest and like put you on the spot and challenge you. Like, people want to see the face behind the company and like what you have built. Even Amanda, she's like, I can't find any pictures of Gemaal
That is
for,
strategic. I hate
but
photos. The only photo that's basically on my Instagram is us on Pickler and Ben. I am.
you're nowhere.
There's so many times people don't even know what I look like when like I come to like an event, and I
But
love
like,
it. That's perfect. That's
it's
exactly
so
what I want.
funny.
Behind
But
the
like,
scenes, they have no idea who's doing everything from email to anything. Like, are you Jamal? Yeah. How are you? No, no, no. It doesn't. Not even social media. Just like pictures period from like
it's
a
so
kid. Like I
funny.
just never like how I look in photos, and
Okay,
some
listen,
people
nobody
are
does.
photogenic. No, 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 no. You come out always looking like a rock star, and I always feel like on photos and stuff I look dang near homeless. So like I
Oh my God.
never. I'm like I never, and everyone says it. They're like, you have photos of your other team members,
You
everything
do.
else but you. And I'm like, yeah.
Gemaal, so I'm going to have to put my little team member on you the way she got onto me. And people love people. People resonate with people. People buy people. People, it builds like, and I love that. I do. But we're going to get you into Collective and get you some headshots if you don't have any headshots, because people need to hear your story. People, I feel, and you don't have to sprinkle it out there every day. But like, we're not going to put a picture of a cocktail for the podcast. Like, we got to have your picture, like your face. Like, it's
Oh
important.
gosh.
It's important to me that
Background to
people
everyone
know.
listening. We do tastings and Angela records, and the only
Everything.
time she records everything, and I don't even know at the time because I'm so focused on what I'm doing that I don't really see. It's like tunnel vision. I'm cocktails, client, and I'm going through everything. And then later on, I look, I'm like, what is Angela posting? And I look, and it's me looking goofy, shaking
No, you're
cocktails. I'm like, oh
not.
my gosh.
You're doing your
I get
thing.
so embarrassed by
But
it.
people love it. They absolutely love it. And it's not just about, like, yes, I agree with you. 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, it was all, I'm just like, I had the same mentality. It's all about the pretty. Why do people care so much? And then, like, we A/B split test everything. So it's like all the pictures that's the pretty, like, they get some likes and maybe some comments. But then when you put people in it and then you put me in it, it's like, oh my gosh, like, people resonate with people. And as a psychology geek, I'm like, yeah. They're like, what drives you? Like, I'm doing all these interviews with Kathy for Collective 615, and I'm like, people. Like, that's the reason I get up and I'm excited every day. It's not because of the flowers and the linens. Like, yeah, I get excited about that too, but it's people's passion and how we feed off of people's excitement to get us going. So when we have those tough moments as entrepreneurs, and it's like, fuck, I gotta sit down and do my taxes and preparing for my accountant, and oh my god, like, I had something happen with insurance, or oh my god, like, I'm dragged to court. It's like, think about what makes it worth it. Going through all that bullshit is like
Yeah,
people, right? I mean, that's what
sure.
we do. We serve people and we want to make them happy. So just remember that. And Gemaal, I need a headshot. I
Oh,
need a
I
headshot.
have. Yeah, I'm gonna get you one. I didn't, but I like no headshot. It doesn't matter
Nobody
who takes
does.
it will ever be good enough. I'm like,
Hey,
this is what
I'm with
people are
you.
gonna see.
I had to get over it. I had to get over it. So the whole point, as I could talk to you forever, but as we wrap up, because I got to get, to the next one.
Mhm.
But guys, like, go on his Instagram. It is beautiful, and ask questions, and like, maybe you'll like tell us a little bit of like a recipe or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we can
Um
do all that.
but what is your Instagram handle? Like, where can people find you and your drinks and these awesome branded logo things that you're doing? Like, we'll post pictures when we put the podcast out there. But again, your face is going to be front and center, and then
Ugh,
your cocktail pictures will be around.
you sure it couldn't be like a pretty cocktail? That's my
Nope.
face.
No,
No.
no, it's
Okay.
gotta be
Well,
you. So what is your
um,
handle? And spell it for them, because I'm the worst speller and I can't spell anything.
perfect. Well, my Instagram is Aperitif Nashville, and that's APERITIF Nashville.
Awesome.
Um, Facebook is the same aperitif except cocktails. So APERITIF cocktails. And for a website, it's aperitif
Awesome. Which we were talking about that earlier. You're like, I've had it for 5 years. It's funny, people in Nashville, because the engagement on social media is so good and I mean, we're freaking busy and we have business. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll have brides and clients, and they're like, they don't go to websites that much anymore. It's like, but you got to have a website to like be legit
To
around
be
here.
legit, exactly.
But half the people's websites, I'm like, their website sucks. I'm not talking about you, but other vendor. I'm like, their website sucks, but I promise you, like, they're the best. It's just they don't have time. So one day we're gonna like get all of our vendor partners and friends and family together and be like, we're gonna have a website facelift day.
When I did my website, it was one of the happiest moments. I feel like I just did like a thesis and I got done with it because I knew
Oh,
nothing about it. I'm like, I'm doing this by myself. People are like, oh, like just get someone to do it. And I was like, starting out, I was one of those like, that's so expensive. I can do this
yeah,
myself.
it's
And
true.
like everything was so, it took me forever because I didn't save this right, or this didn't upload right, or this. I'm like,
Yup.
whew. But once I did it, I was like, I literally told myself, I was like, I never want to do that again.
It's
And that's probably
painful.
why I haven't done it again.
It's painful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have loved talking with you today. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Check out Gmaal's Instagram because that's my favorite social media platform that you post beautiful cocktails and pictures.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then follow him, and maybe, just maybe, you'll start to see some behind the scenes stuff, which I think is
Well,
the
I'm
fun part.
going to do it now.
I challenge you. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening to another episode of Business Unveiled. And be sure to tune in next week so you do not miss any of the juicy details on how to build your business in the creative community. Thanks, Gmaal.
Thank you,
Everybody,
Angela.
you're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with your friends. And I'm so very grateful if you leave a review. Be sure you are a subscriber so you never, ever miss the juicy details of Business Unveiled. Also, be sure that you are part of my email list. And if you're not, sign up today at angelaprofit.com, where I share valuable resources and exclusive products with only my subscribers. Now, before I go, I want to ask you, if you have a story or a product to share with the creative industry, please let me know. To be considered as a guest on Business Unveiled, visit angelaprofit.com and submit a podcast guest form. Until next time, remember to stay productive and profitable.
You've been listening to Business Unveiled with Angela Profit. Join us next time as we share our experiences to help you be more productive and profitable in your creative business. For more great resources, visit angelaprofit.com.